Good morning. So wonderful to see all of you here today. I always cherish my opportunities to share my rambling thoughts with all of you. This month, the Sunday service theme is hope. I'm going to be honest with you, this was a struggle for me to write. Even with my vitamin D and my happy light, winter is a hard time for me. The darkness really affects me, and I am counting the days until the sun starts to return. Last night, I went to the Museum of the Rockies with my family for their holiday program. We watched a short movie in the planetarium that talked about this being the season of lights throughout history, because people have celebrated the return of light for ages. Centuries ago, festivals and rituals were held to call back the sun, for fear it would not return on its own. This is a season of hope, because out of the darkness, light will return, both physically and metaphorically. With that, I give you my sermon, a look at hope in 4 different ways. So what is hope? There is the kind of hope that says, I hope all the lights will turn green on my way to work. I hope that my bus is on time, and I hope my bike doesn't get a flat tire. Then there is hope that says, I hope I can pay my bills next month. I hope it's not cancer. I hope ICE doesn't show up at my workplace. And then there is hope that says, I hope things will get better. I hope peace is possible. I hope everyone has the experience of loved and loving in return. Emily Dickinson wrote, hope is a thing with feathers. There are a lot of things with feathers. Maybe hope is the feather boa worn at a pride parade. Maybe hope is the bald eagle soaring high above the mountains. Maybe hope is an old down blanket with feathers poking out after years of the fabric being worn thin from love. This thing called hope can be many things. And today I offer you a few thoughts of my own. So, 1, hope is not the same as optimism. Sometimes hope and optimism are confused with one another, but they are not the same. Optimism and pessimism are orientations for how one views the world. Hope can live in and amongst both. The classic, the glass is half full or half empty, can give us a sense of what someone is oriented towards, whether they see the good or the bad in the world. But one can hope that the water is refreshingly cold, or one can hope that the water isn't poisoned. Simply having hope does not necessarily rule in or out a negative or positive worldview. Hope is a story about the future, while also acknowledging the future is uncertain. Hope as a wish and what it can reveal to us. Sometimes hope is a wish or a desire, such as, I hope the best for you. This type of hope can teach us about ourselves if we flip it over and look beneath. Author, journalist, and podcast host Krista Tippett has interviewed many people throughout her career. And for a while, she would start each interview asking, what is giving the interviewee the biggest sense of despair? And what is giving them the most hope? She reflected that often the two things were opposite sides of the same issue. That what we hope for often comes in response to our deepest places of despair. I remember working with a gentleman whose wife was dying. Let's call him John and his wife Jane. Jane had had a heart attack and was in critical condition. Due to the lack of oxygen and circulation during her cardiac arrest, her brain was severely damaged. John had met with the intensivist and the neurologist. He had seen the scans that showed the damage. He had heard the statistics of survival, which were incredibly low, practically 0. But he was reluctant to take Jane off life support. They had been married for over 60 years, and he was struggling to face a life without her. As I sat with him at her bedside, he said, "You probably think I'm ridiculous, holding on to hope for a miracle, but I don't know what else to do. I'm not ready to say goodbye yet." John is not the only person I have witnessed hold on to hope in the face of bleak reality. I have watched other families hope for miracles, that cancer would disappear, brains would start working again, lungs would start breathing on their own. I have witnessed others hold on to that hope until the last moment, until that final second that it could possibly see their hope fulfilled. This holding on to hope in the face of evidence to the contrary can seem heroic. John's love for his wife was so strong that he held on to hope as long as he could. But John wasn't a hero, no more than any other person facing a heartbreaking reality. John was terrified, and hope was able to keep that terror at bay for a few more moments. As long as he could keep hoping, keep believing in a different possible outcome, he didn't have to accept what was happening. I think of another time a woman, Misha, came into the emergency department after her husband had been in a car accident. We sat together while the doctor updated her on her husband's injuries. It was not good, but it was also not terrible. After the doctor left, Misha looked at me with a face that asked, "What should I be hoping for?" It was as if in my role as chaplain I had some secret insider knowledge of what was appropriate in that moment. Sure, I have seen many people come through our doors because of car accidents. Some walk away the same day with bumps and bruises, and some don't ever walk away. I have learned a bit about medical terms and what they mean and what kind of outcomes they might indicate, but I don't have any secret knowledge. I couldn't tell Misha what was going to happen. Sometimes I get nervous about giving people false hope. One of the places I've worked had a physician who was nicknamed Pollyanna. When he would meet with families with loved ones in critical condition, he would always paint the picture of possibility, where other providers may not have been so optimistic. This gave room for more hope. It sometimes veered into false hope, creating the idea of a possible outcome in the future of uncertainty that was highly unlikely. There were even times when I gently prepared families who were meeting with him that he was the most optimistic provider on our staff and that it might be more realistic to take what he says with a grain of salt. I fully believe that doctor had every best intention at heart. Yet from the outside, I saw how building up the hope in the face of a situation that was medically and scientifically extremely unlikely could be damaging. This was not the kind of hope I wanted to give Misha. So I asked her, "What are you thinking right now after what the doctor said?" She replied, "I just hope he can walk." There are so many things she could have said to me, and I left space for her to say more. He has a coworker who is disabled, and he has said to me so many times that he would never want to live that way. And I realized that her hope was the flip side of her fear. She hoped he would be able to walk because she was afraid the accident would take away his will to live. In this way, our hopes can sometimes point us to what we are worried about. I think of Irving, in for a knee replacement, telling me he hopes his kids can make it home for Christmas. As Irving shares about his life, I can see that underneath this hope for a holiday with his children is a fear of loneliness and disconnection. And yes, I hope his kids do make it this year. And I also encourage Irving to reach out to friends, his church group, to prioritize social time when he can. 3, hope as imagination and motivation. Author and activist Adrienne Marie Brown writes, "We are living inside imaginations that other people told us were true and told us were how the world is. We live in this abundant world, and we've been told it's scarce. And then we're given all these stories of scarcity. So much of the work of radical imagination is, what does it look like to imagine beyond the constructs? What does it look like to imagine a future where we all get to be there, not causing harm to each other, and experiencing abundance? And Krista Tippett writes, "Nothing new has ever entered the world without someone first imagining a possibility that others could not yet see or believe in, and then brought realities into being that most could not later imagine a world without. Hope is an act of imagination with real-world consequences. A muscular hope refuses to accept given realities and throws one's whole intelligence, creativity, and courage behind that insistence. Sometimes our hopes are about things outside of our control. We hope it won't rain on the day we're planning the outdoor activity. We hope the chemo or radiation works. These hopes are for an outcome that we don't have a hand in, a hope that in the uncertainty of what to come, we come out on top, whether through luck or chance or through divine blessing of some kind. But there is also a hope that we get to play a part in, a hope that motivates us. I often ask patients I'm visiting at the hospital what brings them hope. This is the kind of hope that can keep us going, inspire us to do what it takes to get better. One of the answers is loved ones, humans and animal. Sometimes it's the hope of getting back to a favorite hobby or getting to eat a favorite meal again. Hope can motivate us outside of medical settings as well. Voting can be a result of hope for a better government. Volunteering our time and energy, donating money to causes we believe in, can be the result of hope for a better life for others. As Adrienne Marie Brown and Krista Tippett tell us, hope gives the space for the important work of imagination. Hope is guided by what we believe in. For how could we hope for something that we do not on some level believe is possible? And so it is in this space of possibility, as we hope for something more, something different, something better, that we can break away from narratives that keep us slogging through the status quo. And that brings me to my last idea of hope. Hope as resistance. Being hopeful can be a threat to the way things have always been. News and social media provides endless stories of violence, crime, warfare. There's even a term for the consumption of such information: doom scrolling. Wouldn't it be nice if we had hope scrolling? Being hopeless keeps people from making waves, from challenging what's happening and the way things are. In a system built to keep us hopeless, having hope is a form of radical resistance. Rebecca Solnit tells us, hope locates itself in the premises that we don't know what will happen, and in that spaciousness of uncertainty is room to act. When you recognize uncertainty, you recognize that you may be able to influence the outcome. You alone, or you in concert with a few dozen or several million others. Hope is an embrace of the unknown and the unknowable. It is a belief that what we do matters, even though how and when it may matter, who and what it may impact, are not always things we can know beforehand. Having hope says, I refuse to believe that this is how it will always be. Hope opens the door to a possibility of something else. I will close with these words again from Krista Tippett. Enough of us see that we have a world to remake. We want to meet what is hard and hurting. We want to rise to what is beautiful and life-giving. We want to do that where we live, and we want to do it alongside of others. I hope the flowers will come again, and I hope the sun will return.